Hi everyone, it's Ms Lindsay here. Today we're going to look at fractional indices. First of all, I'd like you to have a go at the few do now questions. We've got a recap of last lesson. We've got multiplying fractions, which will be useful for today's lesson, which you should have done in year 7 and 8. We've got a recap from a couple of lessons ago, and then a recap from unit 1.2. If you pause the video, try those, and then play the video when you're ready for me to go through the answers. Okay, 5 to the power of negative 2 is 1 over 5 squared, which will be 1 over 25. 2 to the power of negative 1 is 1 half. 2 to the power of negative 3 is 1 over 2 cubed, which is 1 over 8. 4 to the power of negative 2 is 1 over 4 squared, which is 1 over 16. 3 to the power of negative 3 is 1 over 3 cubed, which is 1 over 27. And 6 to the power of negative 1 is 1 over 6. Okay, on the line below, 1 half multiplied by 4. Well, 1 half of 4 is 2. 9 multiplied by 2/3, or in other words, 2/3 of 9. To find a fraction of an amount, you take the number, divide by the denominator, and multiply by the numerator. 9 divided by 3 is 3, multiplied by 2 is 6. 2/3 of 9 is 6. 7 halves of 8. 8 divided by 2 is 4, multiplied by 7, 28. 3/4 multiplied by 1 half. When we're multiplying fractions, I first of all check if I can simplify before multiplying. So I look across diagonally, note 2 and 3 cannot be divided any further, and look across again. And then I multiply across the top and across the bottom. 3 multiplied by 1 is 3. 4 multiplied by 2 is 8, so 3/8. 1/3 multiplied by 1/4. 1 multiplied by 1 is 1. And 3 multiplied by 4 is 12, so 1/12. And below again, so we're using place value here. We've been given one calculation, 84 multiplied by 63 is 5,292. So 8.4 multiplied by 0.63. Well, this has been divided by 10 to get from 84 to 8.4. This has been divided by 100 to get from 63 to 0.63. So this calculation here has to be divided by, this number here has to be divided by 10 and by 100, or in other words, divided by 1000, which would give me 5.292. Okay, looking at the original calculation again, this calculation has been divided by 100 to get from 84 to 0.84, and divided by 100 to get from 63 to 0.63. So I'm going to divide this number by 100 twice, or divide it by 10,000, which gives me 0.5292. Now we have a division. I'm going to rearrange this calculation up here to a division calculation that's similar to this one. I'm going to say 5292 divided by 63 is equal to 84. Okay, except I've got 52.92 divided by 6.3. Well, let's say that if I had changed this, 52.92 divided by 63 If the number I'm deciding is 100 times smaller, then the answer is going to be 100 times smaller. Actually, I've got 52.92 divided by 6.3. So if I'm dividing by a number that's 10 times smaller, my answer is going to be 10 times bigger. Think of it as if you're sharing out between less people, you're going to have more per person. So because I'm dividing by a number 10 times smaller, the answer will be 10 times bigger. So the answer down here is 8.4. And then 3 questions up here. Question 1, 10 squared plus the cube root of 125. Well, 10 squared is 100. And the cube root of 125 is 5. So that will be 105. (14 squared is 196. 1 cubed is 1. So that will give me 197. Negative 7 squared is 49. And the cube root of 8 is 2. So that will give me 51. Fantastic. Hopefully you got most of those correct. The things you really need to know for this lesson are these first 2 lines here. So if you've made lots of mistakes there, maybe it's worth going back to the previous lessons to learn those. Okay, let's have a look at some examples for today's lesson. So we're going to look at fractional indices. So we've got 64 to the power of 3 over 2. Just watch what I do and then I'll explain. What do you think I've done here? Well, the denominator of the power is the root, so I've square rooted because the denominator is 2. The numerator of the power is the power, so I've cubed. The square root of 64 is 8, and 8 cubed is 512. You have a go at this one. Okay, so I've taken 64. This time the denominator of the power is 3. So I'm not going to square root, I'm going to cube root. And this time the numerator of the power is 2, so I'm going to square. The cube root of 64 is 4. And 4 squared is 16. So we can come up with a general rule here. Actually, I don't like this one because this won't work for all of our questions here. I'm going to put M here. That's a bit more useful for us for today's lesson. So I've got x to the power of m over n equals to the nth root of x to the power of m. Copy that down if you want to. And then we're going to try some quick fire questions. Oh no, we've got a couple more examples first. So here we've got a fractional indice with a negative. Now we learned about negatives last lesson. Remember that if you've got a negative power, you must do the reciprocal. You must find the reciprocal of the number. So let's start by dealing with the negative first of all. So that will give me 1 over 25 to the power of 1/2. 1 over 25 to the power of 1/2. The power 1/2 would mean that I'm going to square root and raise to the power of 1. So my answer would be square root of 1 is 1, to the power of 1 is 1. Square root of 25 is 5. To the power of 1 is 5. So my answer is 1/5. I did the reciprocal of 25 to get 1 over 25. Then I raised it to power half, so I square rooted. You try this one. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to deal with the negative here. I'm going to do the reciprocal of 25, which is 1 over 25. And that will be to the power of 3 over 2. The denominator is 2, so my root will be 2. I'm going to square root. My numerator is 3, so I'm going to raise to the power of 3. So I'm going to find the square root of 25, and then I'm going to cube it. So the square root of 1 over 25, the square root of 1 over 25 is 1/5, and 1/5 cubed is 1 over 125. Right, now let's go on to our quick fire questions. 36 to the power of a half, what do you think, A, B, C or D? Okay, well, power of a half means that I square root, so I'm going to find the square root of 36, which is 6. 1/9 to the power of 1/2. Okay, I've got power of 1/2 again, so I'm going to square root 1/9. Square root of 1 is 1, square root of 9 is 3, so the square root of 1 over 9 is 1 over 3. 27 to the power of 1/3. So I'm going to find the cube root of 27 because the denominator is 3. The cube root of 27 is 3. 27 to the power of negative 1/3. So in other words, I'm raising 1 over 27 to the power of 1/3. In other words, I'm finding the cube root of 1 over 27. The cube root of 1 is 1, the cube root of 27 is 3, so my answer is 1/3. 27 to the power of 2/3. In other words, I'm finding 27 to the power of negative 2/3. So in other words, I'm finding 1 over 27 to the power of 2/3. So you can see that I've dealt with that negative first of all by finding the reciprocal. Then I'm going to cube root 1 over 27 because the denominator is 3. And then I'm going to raise that to power of 2 because the numerator is 2. Cube root of 1 over 27 is 1 over 3. And 1 over 3 squared is 1 over 9. 1 over 25 to the power of negative 1/2. What do you think? A, B, C or D? So first of all, let's deal with the negative. The reciprocal of 1 over 25 is 25. And 25 to the power of a half would be the square root of 25, which is 5. Technically, it's also negative 5. Because if you square root a number, you should get positive or negative 5. What does this equal? A, B, C or D? Okay, we've got a negative power again, so let's deal with the reciprocal. 27 over 64 to the power of 2/3. Then we want to cube root. And then square. Cube root. And then square. The cube root of 27 is 3. The cube root of 64 is 4. 3 squared is 9. 4 squared is 16. 9 over 16. The answer is C. Okay, brilliant. Hopefully you managed to follow most of those quick slide questions. Hopefully you worked them out yourself before I went through the answers. If not, maybe you understood it when I went through afterwards. Now, how to go at all of these questions? A little clue for the last question here. Convert it to a fraction, simplify the fraction, and then raise to power 1/2. Okay, good luck. Pause the video and play when you're ready for the answers. If you tick or cross your work now, pay careful attention to any mistakes. Correct your mistakes and try and work out what you've done wrong. If you can't work it out, maybe show the question to your teacher. They can help you work out what the answer is or why the answer is what it is. And if you've made lots and lots of mistakes, maybe it's worth going back to the examples and listening to those again. Right, let's try some more problem-solving type questions. Have a go at questions 12 through to 17. And then when you're ready, play the video. I'll show you the answers, and then you can listen to the solutions for any questions that you didn't get correct. Okay, off you go. And here are your answers. So question 12a. 25 to the power of negative 1/2 would be the same as 1 over 25 to the power of 1/2, which is 1/5. B. 64 to the power of negative 1/3 is the same as 1 over 64 to the power of 1/3. So we're cube rooting here, 1 over 4. And 12c, 9 over 25 to the power of negative 1/2. We're going to find the reciprocal of 9 over 25, which is 25 over 9. Raise that to the power 1/2, so in other words, square root. Square root of 25 is 5, the square root of 9 is 3. Question 13a. 64 to the power of 2/3. Well, I'm going to cube root 64, and then I'm going to square it. The cube root of 64 is 4, and 4 squared is 16. 13b. 10,000 to the power of 3/4. So I'm going to find the fourth root of 10,000 and raise that to the power of 3. The fourth root of 10,000 is 10, and 10 cubed is 1,000. 13c, 16 to the power of 3 over 2. So I'm going to square root 16 and then cube it. The square root of 16 is 4, and 4 cubed is 64. 13d. 4/9 to the power of 3 over 2. So I'm going to square root 4 over 9 and then cube the answer to that. The square root of 4 over 9 is 2 over 3, and 2 over 3 cubed is 8 over 27. So let's do 13e up here. 27 to the power of negative 2/3. So that will be the same as 1 over 27 to the power of 2/3. So I'm going to cube root 1 over 27 and then square the result. The cube root of 1 over 27 is 1 over 3, and 1 over 3 squared is 1 over 9. 13f, negative 81 to the power of 3/4. So I'm going to do negative 81, I'm going to do the fourth root, and then cube it. I'm just going to check something here because I can't tell if that negative, I can't do the fourth root of negative 81. Okay. So just to clarify for everybody, that's basically negative 1 multiplied by 81 to the power of 3/4. So I'm finding the fourth root of 81, which is 3. And then I'm cubing that. Oops, let's start this question again because I've written the question down wrong. So 13f, negative 81 to the power of negative 3/4. For now, we're going to keep this negative separate. So it's negative. Deal with the negative here. So the reciprocal of 81 is 1 over 81 to the power of 3/4. The fourth root of 1 over 81 cubed. The fourth root of 1 over 81 is 1/3. And then we want to cube that. So we should get 1 over 27. Question 14. 27 to the power of negative 1/3 multiplied by 9 to the power of 3 over 2. So this is the same as 1 over 27 cube rooted multiplied by square root of 9 cubed. So it's going to be 1 over 3 multiplied by 27. And 1/3 of 27 is 9. 14b, 4 over 25 to the power of negative 3 over 2 multiplied by 8 over 27 to the power of 1/3. So we've got a negative power here, so I'm going to find the reciprocal, 3 over 2, multiplied by the cube root of 8 over 27. Square root of 25 over 4 cubed, multiplied by 2 over 3. The square root of 25 is 5, the square root of 4 is 2, so 5 over 2 cubed, multiplied by 2/3, which is 125 over 8, multiplied by 2/3. Now remember I said to cancel down first when you're multiplying fractions. Here, this can be divided by 2 to get 4, this can be divided by 2 to get 1. So we end up with 125 over 12. Question 15a. 16 equals 2 to the power of what? 4. So n is equal to 4. 15b. The cube root of 27 equals 27 to the power of what? 1/3. Question C. 1 over 100 is the same as 1 over 10 squared, which is the same as 10 to the power of negative 2. D. Root 4 over 9 is the same as 4 over 9 to the power of 1/2, which is the same as 9 over 4 to the power of negative 1/2, so n equals negative 1/2. E. The square root of 3 to the power of 7 equals 3, we square rooted, and raised to the power of 7, so 7 over 2. F. The fourth root of 8 to the power of 7 equals 8 to the power of 7 over 4. Question 16a. Will says that 25 to the power of negative 1/2 multiplied by 64 to the power of 2/3 is 80. Show that Will is wrong. Okay, this is a show that question. Therefore, in this question, you have to make sure you show all of your working out. So, be really clear. If you're in doubt, just do more working than you think is necessary. So 25 to the power of negative a half is the same as 1 over 25 to the power of a half multiplied by 64 to the power of 2/3. So power of a half means square root. Power 2/3 means we cube root and square. Square root of 1 over 25 is 1 over 5. The cube root of 64 is 4, and 4 squared is 16. 1/5 multiplied by 16 is 16 over 5, or 3 and 1/5. So clearly 80 is the wrong answer. What mistake did he make? I think that he forgot to do the reciprocal here. So I think he just found the square root of 25, which is 5, and he multiplied 5 by 16, which would give 80. So he forgot to find reciprocal of, I'm going to check my spelling there because I don't think I spelled that correctly. He forgot to find the reciprocal of 25 before square rooting. Question 17. I'll do that down here. Oh, there's lots of questions here, so I'm going to start a new page. So match the expressions with indices to their values. So I'm just going to go through the questions. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one, and then match them to the answers. So 8 over 27 to the power of negative 2/3 equals 27 over 8 to the power of 2/3. The cube root of 27 is 3, the cube root of 8 is 2, 3 squared is 9, 2 squared is 4. 81 over 16 to the power of negative 1/2 is the same as 16 over 81 to the power of 1/2. Square root 16, square root 81, 4 over 9. 1 over 64 to the power of 2/3 is the same as 1 over 64, cube rooted and squared, which is the same as 1 over 4 squared, which is 1 over 16. 1 over 64 to the power of, oh no, we've just done that one, 16 to the power of negative 3 over 2 is the same as 1 over 16 to the power of 3 over 2. So we want to square root and then cube. 1 over 4 cubed is 1 over 64. 8 to the power of 4/3. 8 to the power of 4/3 is a cube root of 8 to the power of 4. The cube root of 8 is 2, and 2 to the power of 4 is 16. Or should I go back and match them up? I think that would be useful. So this one goes here. This one goes with 4/9, which is here. This one goes with 1 over 16, which is here. This one goes with 1 over 64, which is here. This one goes with 16, which is here. 32 to the power of negative 2/5. 32 to the power of negative 2/5 is the same as 1 over 32 to the power of 2/5. So I'm going to find the fifth root of 1 over 32 and then square it. Fifth root is 1 over 2, or 1/2, and 1/2 squared is 1/4. So this one goes here, which leaves this with this, but I'm just going to go through the answer anyway. 16 3/4, 16 to the power of 3/4 even, equals the fourth root of 16 cubed. And the fourth root of 16 is 2, and 2 cubed is 8.